Okay, this is lesson 7, titled All Kinds of Equations. In your Amplify Desmos, this is the slides for it, but we're going to use journal pages 131 to 134 to complete the work this way, this time. So looking at equations with proportional relationships are in the form y equals kx, where k is the constant of proportionality. Okay, so that means in order to get your y value, you are multiplying x by a certain amount. So we have a warm-up question here. It says this table represents the equation y equals 3x plus 1. It says use this equation to complete the table. And then B, does the equation represent a proportional relationship? So we have these two values to complete based on this equation. So take a moment, pause this video, and see what you come up with, and then turn it back on so that we can work out these problems together. Okay, welcome back. So looking at our equation, I'm just going to write this down. For this one, I'm going to call this A and B here. First, we copy our equation. We have y equals 3x plus 1. And we're told that when x is 1, so if I put 1 here for x, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, our y is 4. So it's kind of like an input-output, and we're just trying to find what number would go in here. It might be easier to do this one because all we would have to do is put 2.5 into the equation there. But we can work backwards too, because if our y is 16, we can do 16 equals 3x plus 1, and then use our equation work to solve that. So solving for x here, we would subtract 1 on both sides, lining up that equal sign. Plus 1 and minus 1 are a zero pair, and we have 3x equals 16 minus 1, which is 15. And then if 3x's are 15, to solve for x, we're going to divide by 3, and we get x equals 5. So we're going to put in our 5 here. And then you can check it. 5 times 3 is 15, plus the 1 is 16. So it works. Okay, for the second one there, same thing. We're going to copy the equation, 3x plus 1. And then now we're replacing the x with the 2.5. So y equals 3 times the quantity, 2.5 plus 1. We're going to multiply here. 3 times 2.5 is 7.5 plus 1. Y equals 8.5. So we come back up here and we put in our 8.5. So the next question is, does this equation represent a proportional relationship? We can take a look by using our unit rates here. Remember, we could do y divided by x. So in this case, 4 divided by 1 is 4, and 10 divided by 3 is not 4. It's going to be 3.3 repeating. So we're going to have to say no. This plus 1 is actually the problem, okay? Because it's not in the form y equals kx. And because it's not in that form, because it has this extra plus 1, also we're going to say that the unit rates are different for each xy pair. Okay, so they're not the same. Okay, over to page 132. Here we have stories, equations, and tables, activity 1. Story, Trinidad earns $12 per hour. The equation is y equals 12x. Is the relationship proportional? Well, yes, because it's in the form y equals kx. where k is your 12. So to complete the table, if you have 0, 0 times 12 is 0. 1 times 12 is 12. And now we have to go backwards. So in this case, if we're going this way, something times 12 equals 30. So 30 divided by 12 is 2.5. And then you can come up with any numbers that you want there. Let's pick 3. And then we're going to do 3 times 12, which is 36. Okay, so the constant, the explaining our thinking here is the constant of proportionality is 12. You could also check it by getting your unit rate. Besides your 0.00, 12 divided by 1 is 12, 30 divided by 2.5 is 12, 36 divided by 3 is 12. So they all have the same unit rate. Okay, in story 2, we have a recipe recommends 1 banana for every 2 smoothies. So it's a 1 to 2 relationship here. So if you have 1 banana, how many smoothies? It's 1 to 2. So this is 1. That's working the other way. So let's do some work here. We're going to have to do whatever the x value is, multiply it by 1/2. So 1/2 times 0 gives us 0. 1/2 times 1 gives us 1/2. So we are multiplying by 1/2, which is the constant. In the other direction, we're going to be dividing by 1/2, or 0.5. So this will be 5. And then you can pick any number you want. I'm going to pick the number 6 because I know half of that is 3 to complete my chart. Yes, this is proportional. It is in the form y equals kx, where k is 1/2. Okay, example number story 3. We have y equals 500 plus 35x. We could rewrite that as well as y equals 35x plus 500. This plus 500 is concerning. It is the cost of a phone before your unit per month plan. So the per part tells you that you're multiplying 35 times that amount, but this plus 500 makes this not proportional. Okay, you don't have a constant of proportionality because you have a starting amount. You have a starting fee of 500. So even if you are not using it for any months, you are still going to be paying the $500 for your phone. So that right there is not 0, 0. And that was one of the clues to whether a table is going to be proportional or not. Whenever x is 0, y should also be 0 if it's in the form y equals kx. Okay, but we're going to use this equation here to complete the chart. If x is 1, 35 times 1 is 35 plus 500. That's going to be 535. Here we're given the y. So for this one, I'll work it out this way. 605 is equal to 35x plus 500. Solving for x, we're going to subtract 500 from both sides. Okay, our 0 pairs cross out. We have 35x is equal to, that works out to be 105. And then divide both sides by the 35, and x equals 3. So when the y is 605 in this formula, our x is 3. And then we're told to pick any number we want to fill in here. I would just pick a 2, just because 2 times 35 is 70, plus 500 is 570. But you could do different numbers there. All right, story number 4. The area of a square is the side length multiplied by itself. All right, so we have x squared. Now I could put a 1 in front of it, and that could be my k, but I have an x squared. Proportions have an exponent of 1. They should just have x, not an exponent of 2, 3, 4, whatever, because then it's not going to be linear or work. It's not in the form y equals kx. Okay, there, you'll notice that even in the form y equals kx, x is not squared. But we will solve the rest of this. 0 squared, if I have 0 for x here, 0 squared means 0 times 0, which is just 0. 1 squared means 1 times 1, which is just 1. And then working backwards, what number squared is going to give me 100? 10 times 10 is 100. And then you can pick any other ones too. So if I want to do 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16. So we can still complete the chart based on the equation, but it's not proportional. Okay, here are some equations that represent the 4 stories. Select the equations that represent a proportional relationship. Well, any equation that's going to have just the number x. So A is correct. B, nope, I have that plus 500, so that doesn't work. D, nope, I have the squared there. That's not going to work. So A and C are the only 2. They have y equals, and then number times x. And that number can be a whole number or a fraction, but it's being multiplied by x. Okay, 134. We have a chart here. Again, just by looking at the equation, we're checking to see if it's in the form y equals kx to say if it's proportional or not. First one, we have a plus 4 in there, so it's not a proportion. Y equals kx, that is a proportion. JC walked 4 miles in 100 meters at a steady pace. So a steady pace means constant rate. And because that is a constant rate, we're going to say that that's proportional. Y equals, okay, so these is just written the other way around, but we can rewrite it as y equals 0.04x. So that's in the form. Y equals x divided by 4. Remember, we can put a 1 in front of the x, so that's the same thing as y equals 1/4 x. That still works. You're multiplying 1/4 times the x. Okay, this one is 4 divided by x. It's not being multiplied by x because it's in the denominator, so this is not proportional. Remember, it's k times the x. And the last one, they gave us a table. So if it is proportional, they should have the same rate. If I do y divided by x here, 4 divided by 1 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. All right, I'm already getting different answers here. So this is not proportional. Okay, lastly, Mackie thinks 4 over x equals y is proportional. Karima thinks y equals x over 4 is proportional. Whose thinking is correct? Well, I think what it is we cannot have an x in the denominator because you can't have a 0 and because you're dividing here. So you can think of that as Karima is the one that's correct because you can't have the point 0, 0 because x can't be 0 because in the denominator that is called undefined. But also you are dividing instead of having a number times x. Okay, that is it for the lesson. Based on the lesson, I want you to go ahead and try the lesson practice questions. The practice questions are on pages 136, 137. You can check your answers with the video notes, and then you'll have to enter your lesson 7 practice questions in Amplify Desmos so that you can get credit for your homework.